Hi, today I want to talk about Microsoft Word in detail about report writing and the basics. So let me just open up a blank document. So this is what you get with a blank document. However, if you have a design report, for example, like that one, then you might want to have a couple of features. First of all, you just want it to look nice, right? See here, there's line spacing, but there's also spacing after the paragraph. Then until the main chapter has started, you just have Roman numerals, I, and so on. And then when the main chapter starts, it goes down to 1. Even more, what you can have is different size pages. So for example, this is A4, this is A3. Now if you want to have this in your report, then just follow along. I'll explain all of that in a bit. So today I just want to talk about autosave, formatting marks, styles panel, page numbering, the breaks, so page breaks, section breaks, and most importantly, citations. Okay, so first of all, if you're at a university and your Word license is through your university account, you most likely also have OneDrive. And so you want to have autosaved on. Now the way you can have autosaved on, you just click autosave on, and then you have to save it on one of your internet locations. If I now type some stuff, it says saving, and now I click Command S, and it's saved. Now it's saved online. Now the next thing I want to talk to you about is this little thing here. Now as you can tell, I always have this turned on. It's the formatting marks. Now if you haven't worked with formatting marks before, every time I write, I type or check documents, it's always on. Why? Because it shows you where a paragraph ends. This little inverted P or 2 lines shows the end of a paragraph. So if I do this, there's a new paragraph. There's another paragraph. And if you look closer, there's little dots. And this means there's one space. Okay? If you have 2 spaces and don't have that turned on, it would be really difficult to see, apart from the word automatic thingy, that there is 2 spaces. So it's a very, very powerful tool. For example, here. Now you might not see it if you scan it, but maybe someone else will, and that annoys it, the reader. So always have that turned on. Okay, so third thing, super important, super nice. So up to now, you set all your fonts, your font sizes, your colors, your paragraph stuff, such as line spacing and spaces after and before, and so on, within here. But from now onwards, I really suggest to you, use the styles panel. What that means, let's go to my nicely formatted document here. Basically, as you can see, this paragraph is formatted as normal. This paragraph is formatted as normal. Now if I click on styles panel here, I can go to the normal and say select all. Now within the select all, it selects all the paragraphs that are formatted as normal. Now the really nice thing about this is that if I want to make a change, such as changing something about the font size or the font itself, you can just do it within the style, and then it will update on the whole document. So you don't have to mess around with changing headings and so on. So let me just show you with an example. Heat rejection. So this by default is formatted as normal, but right now I want to format this as heading 1. Ooh, I clicked on heading 1 and this happens. Now this is the default heading 1. This is the default heading 1, and therefore it looks like this. Say you don't want to have this much space in between, right? So you just click here, say modify style, and that's basically all the things you can modify from here, as you can tell. But if you go to the left bottom here and click, for example, onto paragraph, this allows you to set the line spacing. Now right now it's set to 1.5. Say we want it to be at 1.15. And it also defines something as after. So that 6 points after the paragraph, there's a space. which in my opinion looks super nice. So let's just set it like that for now. Click OK, and it automatically updates. So now let's just copy that a couple of times. And as you can tell, it looks super nice to have a space in between the paragraphs. Normally, if you open a new document, which I'll just do right now, if you have one paragraph and then the next one and so on, you won't really be able to differentiate between one paragraph or the other. With the line spacing after, you can. And now it's really nice if you want to set it and say, okay, actually the line spacing is quite a lot, or maybe I need to cover everything within 10 pages, so let's try and cut down by a little. Select all, and then go modify style, and then go paragraph, and just say, okay, you actually just want 3 points, which still looks nice, you know, and then it just updates. Okay, and similarly, that's how you can do and go about headings. That's a subheading here, and why I call this a subheading, because right now I'm going to do a heading 2. Now what this, how do you write it? Subheading, one word. Okay, so what this just did, automatically it created a third heading. There you go. Now usually you want stuff numbered, right? So what you do about that, you just go here and click modify style. You click modify style, go onto numbering, and then just click numbered, click this, click OK, and done. Now this gives an indentation. The way how to go about this indentation is very similar. You go onto modify style, and interestingly you go into paragraph. Now on paragraph it gives you indentation from the left, right, and right now this, so where the 1 starts, is at 0.63. Now I like to have it at 0. However, the hanging, so the distance between the first, so the number, and this currently is at 0.63. I usually like that to be a little bit more, so let's put that at 1 for now. Everything else about the heading, so headings have no space after, maybe let's make that 3, but before it's 12. That's like standard, and you can play around with it. Okie dokie, let's click OK. That's much better. I prefer it this way. But currently the second heading doesn't have numbering. So what you do about this, you go here, click select all if you have multiple headings, but there's just one second heading for now. Click on modify style, numbering, and then there you go, outlined numbered, and you want it like this because you want to have the second heading as 1.1. So click here. Okay. Perfect. And that's basically what it did. Now what we could do as well is we could look into modify style, paragraph, and check where it's hanging. Okay, so by default, it actually went a little bit further in. I don't like this, so I'll just call it 1.0. And if you look close enough here, it will move a little bit to the left. You could barely see it. Nice. So now we're done with this. So next I want to talk about page breaks. Page breaks and section breaks. Now, this is super important. Okay, so you just go onto layout and then you can click onto breaks and add a page break. Now, this is super tedious and there's a shortcut. Just click command and enter and a page break has been inserted. Now, don't worry, it doesn't actually type page break. It's just because you have this little thing turned on. How I used to do it back in the day, I used to do this, right? And this might be fine and say this is the next page. This might be fine right now, but as soon as you add, like, say another paragraph in here, everything is messed up and you really don't want to have a document with empty lines. In general, a document should never have an empty line. Like, there is never a reason why you have an empty line. You have above and below spaces and you have page breaks. Now, the page break basically takes away all of this. Ta-da. And if I click command and enter right now, this is automatically on the next page. So everything below here will be on the next page. Now I can add as many paragraphs of this in here, and this will still be on the first line, next page. Awesome, right? Okay, then what's a section break about? Now, a section break is something that only comes in handy if you want to have something profoundly different in the next section. So for example, here I have A4 pages, whereas here I have A3 pages. The other reason why you want to have a section break is because of page numbering. Now, as you can tell right here, this is the first page and it doesn't have any numbering. And usually you number the first page, but the number then only continues on the second page and doesn't show on the first page. However, only when the main content starts, you can start writing normal numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Whereas before, you want those Roman numerals. So if you just click on, if you go into the footer, so you double click here, so I'll show you again, double click at the footer, it opens this automatically. And then you go into page number, right aligned, because why not? Show number on first page, okay. This is what happens. And for many documents, this is okay, starting on page 1 and then counting through. But sometimes, if you want it to be really neat, you want it different. So say I want Roman numerals up until here and then want to count from 1 onwards. What do you need? You need a section break. So in here, you go here next to the page break and just go into layout, breaks, section break, and you want it on the next page, right? And this adds it here. Okay, that's what we expected, right? Again, this just tells you because of the formatting marks being turned on. Now this is in 2 different sections, right? So what we can do now already is we can go on here, double click and say page number, format page numbers, and say actually you want it like this, and continue from previous section. This is section 1, so we can just have it here, BI, and actually if we're gonna go on page numbers again, we don't want to show on first page, because think about it, you're gonna format this really nicely as your title page, maybe put a picture or something. So then it goes on II, triple I, and here it should say 1, but it doesn't. It says 4. Now what happened here is it says same as previous. So actually you don't want the same as previous, because this section should not be linked to the previous section. So we could go here and say untick this. Okay, so now you go into page number and say right aligned, show number on first page. Okay, and then you format the page number by saying actually don't continue from previous section, start at 1 and you want this number format, and there you go, page 2. Now let's assume you want to have on this page, you want to have something A3. Now how you go about this is also very similar. You just insert a section break here. It actually interestingly continued to number from the beginning. Now this is interesting because actually right now we don't really want this, but we'll come to that later. First of all, we're just gonna go here, and actually because we only want one page to be A3, so say this should be A4 again, A4. So we want this to be A3. Actually, we need another section break in here, so that only this page is actually A3. And now we can go size and say okay, say you want this landscape. You can just click here and say landscape, and it will only apply to this section, which is super nice. However, what hasn't really updated yet is the fact that we have numbering 1, 2, and then it goes 1, 1. So the way to deal about this, just go into this page numbering here, click format page numbers, and then click continue from previous section. Nice, 2, 3, and then again here, format page numbers, continue from previous section, 4, 5. Okay, awesome. Now let's take a break. No pun intended. Okay, so the last thing is about citations. Now, if you look in through a document, right, you want to have figures labeled with a figure label below the figure, and you generally want that tables are labeled like this, above the table. That is what you want. And then with equations, you usually want the equation to be centered, and then the equation number over here. This will be the last thing we'll do because it's the most complicated out of all. But basically what usually happens is people put in the figure labeling manually, which then is a real mess if you want to insert a figure above or below. Same with citing it. Okay, so we're in here and we'll put that here. Now I usually like to put figures center, and the way we deal with this is if we say, okay, we want this to be a figure, we go into references and then click insert caption figure 1, and then we call it motor and motor controller full stop or not, whatever you want. Okay, and it's here. Now similarly, if you check here real quick, it's 9. So you really need to go to the styles panel and go on to your caption, modify the caption style and say, okay, actually, we want this to be 11 and we don't want that, and we want it in the center. Okay, that's awesome. And it should do it to the next ones. But if I say, okay, this can be seen in figure 1, then every time I add another figure above, and this really messes it up. So instead, what I do is I go onto references and then click cross-reference. Now I say I want to reference a figure because I just inserted a figure, and instead of inserting the entire caption, I'll just put only label and number. And if you have multiple figures, then there will be multiple figures, but right now there's just figure 1, so we insert this. Awesome. So it says this can be seen in figure 1, full stop. Now this, as you can see, is a link. So if I click on this, it goes to here. This is really nice because if you then formatted this as a PDF, you can just click within the PDF on this and it should go there. Now, suppose we have another figure that we want to insert, and now we want to insert it above. Again, we want this to be like that. References, insert caption, figure, and then space frame. Okay, nice. It automatically did what we wanted it to be. Font size 11 and not italics. Now, as you can tell, it did it what we wanted it to do. This automatically updated to figure 2. Now here we can say the space frame can be seen in, and then do the same thing as before, cross-reference, figure, only label and number, and select space frame, figure 1, full stop. Now here you can tell that here this link has not been updated yet. So what you do, you can either click on here, right click, and say update field. Now obviously this would update this field, and it's done. But because that might happen in the whole document, you select the whole document by clicking Command A, and then at the end of the document you just click update field. For a large document this usually takes a little longer, but this is how to go about it. And the exact same thing happens with tables. So if we have a table, we'll just say, okay, reference, insert caption, table, and then table of nothing, okay, and then we'll just be this can, and then cross-reference, and there you go. And you really have to get into the habit of just doing it straight away and not color coding it or making large question marks, because it will take an effort to do it afterwards, but it would be so much easier to just do it straight away. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about is equations. The only real easy way of going about this is you insert a table. Now you're going to insert a table, a 3x1 table, and in here you will just take the equation and copy it in here, and then if you just created a label somewhere else, so say okay, references, insert caption, equation 1. Now you would take this, copy it, and paste it in here. Since we know that this is formatted as a caption, as you can see here, the caption is selected, it will be in the center. So what you would have to do, you would have to create a new style, call it equation. It will be based on caption, but it's basically simply right aligned. So we'll do this and select equation for the equation. Nice. So the last thing you want to do, because you don't want to have the borders, you just go into table design and click no border. There you go, and this is done. And if you want to reference it, you can say this can be seen in, and then as before, cross-reference numbered equation number 1. Okay, now what's nice about this now is if you want to use equations later on, you just select the table, click Command C for copying it, pasting it in here, and then what you do is you can click right click, or you select everything, just click right click here and say update field, and there you go, equation 2, and then you can say voila. Now finally, you don't really want to do this every single time going about formatting your pages. So what you could do is you could just say, okay, file, save as template. Now template is a little different because what that makes, it actually saves it within a different folder structure. It's not a document, so let's just call it test-write video template, and we save it as a .x template. Save this. Okay. Now this is saved on my computer, which is why it's not auto-saved. So say we want to create a new document right now, you can click new here, and it will give you the templates that they know about and our templates. Now if we now open the test template, basically what this does is it gives me the template that I created. Now in the template that we created, there's obviously lots of text, but what you could do is basically delete the whole text and maybe leave the numbering if you want to use this in the future, but all the titling and the headings and the style that you want to use will be saved, which is really nice. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, just leave it down in the comments. If you have a better way about going things, please let me know as well, and enjoy.